Good morning, dear students. Today I will be doing Act 4, Scene 1. A part of it has already been completed during the online classes. I am doing it on a video for some of the students who had missed out on the online classes for some reason, as well as for those who attended the online classes. This is for your reference. Please learn from it. Now, gentlemen, as you follow this video, kindly have your books open at page 64. Now, in brief, what this scene contains. This is the famous trial scene in which Antonio is tried in a Venetian court of law in Venice, according to the laws of Venice, as demanded by Shylock. The judge in this case, who was the Duke himself, appeals to Shylock to show mercy, and Bassanio offers double the amount to Shylock. Double the amount. In place of 3, he offers 6,000 ducats, so that Shylock would change his mind and stance. But the Jew does not relent. He does not give up on his decision. He is adamant. A-D-A-M-A-N-T. Adamant means he is bent on having the penalty as per the condition or the clause which was mentioned in the contract which Antonio had signed along with him at the time of borrowing the 3,000 ducats. As the scene progresses, Portia, in disguise as a lawyer, with the permission of the Duke, on the recommendation of Valerio, another very eminent, highly qualified doctor of law, pleading and requesting the Duke to kindly allow Portia in disguise as a lawyer to participate in the case in order to defend Antonio. It was evident, it was clear that Antonio would certainly lose the case, because Shylock had very cunningly and very meticulous meaning very thoroughly worked out a plan within the limits of the law to trap Antonio. He had everything in favor of him. The documents that he had brought to court along with him had been signed as a contract by Antonio. Therefore, he had no chance to get away from the law. Here, Portia, you will see and you will learn how she makes this famous speech on quality of mercy, urging the plaintiff Shylock, urging Shylock to change his mind and show mercy towards Antonio, trying to soften his heart, making this humanitarian plea. But Shylock would not relent. Shylock would not change his mind. She then turns the tables on him. She turns the case on its head in favor of Antonio, using the same very clause that was planned with precision by Shylock to win the case in favor of him. She had the table turned against him and in favor of Antonio. And this condition she very diligently, using her wisdom, uses to free Antonio. And what was that particular clause that was mentioned in the bond? The condition that it should be an exact pound of flesh, and that too without shedding a single drop of blood. That second part of it was included by her to have Shylock fall into the very pit which he had dug for Antonio. Now, gentlemen, thus Shylock is caught in his own trap, loses the case, he loses the bond, and has to depart with half his goods, and the other half has to be kept in custody or in trust in the treasury of the court, under the authority of the court, in custody of the court, on condition that he becomes a Christian, he renounces his religion, he gives up his religion, Judaism, and accept to become a Christian. If so, it would be returned to him, but again a condition was included, and this time the condition was that he would have to bequeath, he would have to legally give away or have to transfer all his possession, all his wealth, property, and the valuables to Jessica and Lorenzo after his death. He would have to sign this on a deed and submit it to the court, so that the court would have a proof of his agreement on that condition, eager to offer anything to express his gratitude to the lawyer, Bassanio, I'm talking about, Bassanio and Antonio. They were highly impressed and thankful to Portia for having saved Antonio from the clutches of Shylock. Bassanio offers and gives away his wife's ring, which had been given to him as a token of loyalty, love, and acceptance. And this parting with the ring, this giving away of the ring as a token of appreciation and gratitude to the lawyer who they thought was the lawyer. In fact, the lawyer was Portia in disguise. It leads to the ring episode, which you will learn, and how Portia and Nerissa, they taunt and tease their husbands, their respective husbands, for being disloyal. In the scene, what is justified? Right is justified to its fullest measure, to its completeness, and malice or hatred falls into the trap laid for others. How hatred, the feeling of a vengeance, the feeling of vengeance falls, and the person who intended such revenge fails. That is how in life, in reality, it works, gentlemen. Here in this scene, Shylock is described as a stone-hearted, unforgiving, merciless, beast-like, bloodthirsty, hard-hearted opponent. You have the perfect description of Shylock. So in the exam, if you are asked a question to describe or give a character sketch of Shylock, you will use the words which are mentioned in the speech of the Duke describing Shylock as a stone-hearted, hard-hearted adversary, void of all pity and sympathy. As we move on, you will notice that there is a clear clash of the two important religious communities, the Christians and the Jews. The Jews, forming the minority in Venice and elsewhere in Europe, had little in say. They had, so as to say, little or no rights. And how the Christians, forming the majority, suppressed, degraded, demeaned. Demeaned means they tried to look down upon the Christians. The attitude of the Christians towards the Jews is regarded to be right, for the laws were designed by the majority of the population who were Christians. Therefore, it was pre-accepted that whatever the Christians did was right. In fact, you will see that from the prism of justice and law, Antonio was treated with favor. The Duke had a soft approach in trying to save Antonio, and you will also notice that Shylock was never addressed by his name. He was always referred to as the Jew or Jew, calling him, addressing him by the name of his community or the class of people he belonged to. And this makes it very clear the dominance that the Christians had over the Jews. that the Jews were mistreated and were not treated as equal as the Christians. So, as you read the scene, you will notice that everybody tried to help Antonio, save him and rescue him from the clutches of Shylock. And Shylock was bent on having the penalty according to the law, not following any method or way that was outside the limits of the law. He very well knew the law and how to manipulate, how to cunningly use it in his favor, though he was tricked, trapped, and defeated by the presence of mind and the cleverness of Portia. So, gentlemen, let us begin the scene. Scene 1, Venice, a court of justice. Enter the Duke, the Magnificios. Magnificios, I told you, the important members of the Venetian society, the rich, educated people, including the influential merchants of Venice, who also formed the jury in the case. Antonio entered the scene, Bassanio too, Graciano, Salerio, and others. The scene opens in the courtroom. The Duke speaks. What is Antonio here? He questions to know whether the defendant, Antonio, was present there to stand trial. Antonio replied and said, "Ready, so please your grace." He said that he was present and ready to participate in the trial if it would please His Grace, the Duke, who was the judge in the case. The Duke said, "I am sorry for thee. Thou art come to answer a stony adversary, an inhuman wretch, incapable of pity, void and empty from any dram of mercy." So what he meant to say is showing pity, sympathy, and empathy, sympathy, feeling for Antonio, empathy, feeling with him, experiencing his pain and suffering, the nervousness, the helplessness which Antonio was feeling at that point of time, waiting to be tried in court, very sure that he would lose the case and would have to face death. So the Duke said that he felt sorry for Antonio. He expressed his helplessness, that there was no way he could help Antonio from stopping him or preventing him being tried in court. For that was the demand of Shylock. So he said that he was very sorry for him. "Thou art come to answer a stony adversary." He said that he had come to court to stand trial, and fight the case against an opponent who was stone-hearted, a very difficult, unbending, stone-hearted, adamant opponent. Adversary meaning opponent. A stony opponent, a hard-hearted, unbending, uncompromising opponent. He said to Antonio that he had come to answer, to participate in the court case, be tried in the court case as demanded by Shylock, who was an inhuman wretch. An inhuman wretch, meaning, according to the Duke, Shylock was an unhappy, contemptible person. Wretch meaning a very unhappy person. So here he compares him to be an extremely unhappy, inhuman, animal-like person, incapable of showing any pity, incapable, the word is in your text, incapable of showing any pity, void and empty, devoid, meaning to say he did not have, and empty from any dram of mercy. He did not have, he was devoid and empty of even the slightest of mercy in his heart, as little as a dram. And what was the measure of a dram? In grams it would mean 3.5 grams. So he said that Shylock was a stony adversary, a hard-hearted, stone-hearted adversary, an inhuman wretch, a beast-like, unhappy person, incapable of showing any sympathy, empathy, or pity, devoid, void means devoid, he did not have, and empty, his heart was empty, with even the slightest degree or amount of pity, so much so he did not have even 1/8 of an ounce of pity for anyone in his heart. That was the kind of an insensitive man he was. Antonio in reply said to the Duke, I have heard your grace hath taken great pains to qualify his rigorous course, but since he stands obdurate, and that no lawful means can carry me out of his envy's reach, I do oppose my patience to his fury, and am armed to suffer with a quietness of spirit the very tyranny and rage of his. What did he mean to say? He, in a very humble way, said to the Duke that he had learnt, he had heard that His Grace the Duke had taken great pains and trouble to help Shylock change his mind, influence him to deviate, to change his thought process, to deviate him from his demand that the court hold the trial in the strictest manner possible, following the laws of the land according to the Charter of Venice. So, again I repeat, he said that he had heard that the Duke, His Grace, had taken a lot of trouble and pain himself to try and influence, to try and soften, to try and deviate Shylock from his rigorous course, meaning from his demand of the court holding Antonio's trial in the most strict manner, following the laws of the land or the Charter of Venice. But since he stands obdurate, but since he said Shylock was not willing to listen, since Shylock was not willing to be influenced, since Shylock was not willing to be affected, since Shylock was not willing to deviate his mind from the demand of wanting the court case be held in the strictest possible manner in accordance with the law, and that Shylock was adamant, rigid, not willing to change on his demand. Obdurate means adamant, bent on, not willing to change his mind, and that no lawful means can carry me out of his envy's reach. And he said there was no legal path, no legal way, no legal means by the help of which he could be saved and he could get away from the hateful, revengeful reach of Shylock, that there was no legal means by the help of which he could get away from the malicious, the hateful reach and grip of Shylock. He went on to say in a very helpless manner that even the law would not be able to save him from Shylock's hate or malice. I do oppose my patience to his fury. He said that he would meet Shylock's anger with his patience. He would meet Shylock's wrath, W-R-A-T-H, wrath, anger and fury with his patience. And he was ready, prepared to accept the pains or suffering calmly. He was ready to accept the pains and suffering that would be inflicted on him calmly, with a quiet spirit. Quiet spirit means without trying to resist, without trying to retaliate, without trying to defend himself in a way showing anger towards Shylock. So what did he say? He said that he would meet Shylock's anger with patience, and he was ready, prepared to accept the pains and suffering that would be inflicted on him by Shylock, very calmly and with a quiet spirit, without any retaliation or angry reaction, trying to defend himself. He would accept it with a quiet spirit, the full force. He would accept the full force of Shylock's cruelty. The very tyranny means the full force of Shylock's cruelty, his unreasonable, his illogical and arbitrary, not willing to change, being irrational without showing any mercy or reason. He said that he was willing to bear, tolerate and accept with a quiet spirit, with a gentle spirit, the full force of Shylock's cruelty, his unreasonable hate and fury. So he is ready to submit himself to the rage and fury of Shylock, which is very clear from what he had said. The Duke then spoke and said, "Go one and call the Jew into the court." You see that he was a little upset and angry with Shylock. Therefore, he did not even, therefore he addressed him, calling him Jew and not by his name. He did not even think it was worth taking his name. So this shows the mentality of the Christians, the attitude of the Christians towards the Jew. They look down upon the Jews. Salerio. So what did the Duke say? The Duke said, he asked one of the attendants to go out and call the Jew into the court, to make his presence into the court and have the trial that he was demanding very fervently, very strongly, be held in court. Salerio, he's ready at the door. "Here comes my lord." He said that he was ready, waiting outside at the doorway, and he was eager to come in to the court. "Enter Shylock," the Duke said. "Make room and let him stand before our face. Shylock, the world thinks, and I think so too, that thou but leadest this fashion of thy malice to the last hour of act, and then 'tis thought thou'lt show thy mercy and remorse more strange than is thy strange apparent cruelty. What it all means is, the Duke was still hopeful that Shylock would change his mind. He was trying his best to convince him, persuade him, and influence him to change his mind. So he trying to make him feel important, show him that respect, though truly from within his heart he was not. He told the people at the doorway to make room, to give him space so that he could come into the courtroom, stand before everyone present in court, and let everyone see who he was. Shylock walked in with the contract papers with him, a scale. In court you have, you've seen the statue of justice with a scale in one hand. So he had a scale with him. He had the contract papers, and he came in. Shylock, the Duke said, he addressed him second time with the thought that in his presence he would show some respect so that he would soften his stand and change his mind. Shylock, the world thinks, he said, that everybody present in court and the entire Italy thought, he said that he too shared the same thought. He too thought the same thing what the others did, that he was simply putting up this show. He was simply pretending to express hate towards Antonio. He was simply putting up an act. He was simply showing this pretentious expression of ill will and hate towards Antonio till that last moment of the court case be held, till that last moment when the court case would be held, the decision would be passed. And he said, when the actual moment or time would arrive, for him to exact that 1 pound of flesh or his penalty, he would show greater or more surprising mercy that would prove to be confusing to all. It would prove to be strange to all. The sudden change in his heart that he was believed that he would show. And it would be stranger than the strange behavior of cruelty which he was showing towards Antonio at that point of time. He says, when the actual moment would arrive for him to exact that penalty, that 1 pound of flesh from Antonio, he would show greater mercy. He would show mercy that would be stranger to everyone than the strange behavior of hate and cruelty which he was showing towards Antonio till that moment, or the hate and cruelty which he was showing Antonio at that point of time. So, apparent means that he was showing. And where thou now exactest the penalty, which is a pound of this poor merchant's flesh, thou wilt not only lose the forfeiture, but touched with human gentleness and love, forgive a moiety of the principal, glancing an eye of pity on his losses that he have of late so hurdled on his back. And now to press a royal merchant down and pluck commiseration of his state from brassy bosoms and rough hearts of flint, from stubborn Turks and Tartars, never trained to offices of tender courtesy. We all expect a gentle answer due. So, what did he mean to say by those few lines that he had uttered, saying to Shylock that the penalty that he was demanding to have, and where thou, meaning gentlemen, and whereas the penalty that he was demanding to have, that was the 1 pound of flesh which he had included in the contract to which Antonio had agreed when he had signed the contract with him. The penalty that he was demanding, that 1 pound of flesh, from that poor merchant trying to show Shylock Antonio's condition. He called him a poor merchant. He said the 1 pound of flesh, whereas he was demanding from that poor merchant in the form of the penalty for having failed to pay back according to the contract which he had signed. And he should, before claiming for that penalty, look at the losses that he had incurred. And it was believed by all in court, including himself, that he would, taking into consideration the poor, desperate condition of Antonio, forgive the penalty, forgive the forfeiture, and not only that, touched by, influenced by, moved by human compassion, He said, him being a human being, a man capable of showing mercy, he be touched by, moved by human compassion, feeling of kindness. Here, gentleness means moved by the feeling of human kindness and moved by his pitiful condition, he would show kindness and compassion. He would show kindness, gentleness. Here, please remember, gentleness means he would show kindness and he would show compassion, love. He, being a human being, would be touched by the desperate and poor condition of Antonio the merchant, being influenced by his poor state. He would show kindness and compassion, the feeling of pity and love, compassion, and forgive not only the penalty but a part, a fraction of the principle that he had borrowed from him, that